So, New Jersey just legalized the recreational use of marijuana for people over 21 at least. Immediately, people started to celebrate. And it makes sense because nowadays, marijuana isn't seen as a bad thing. Most people could really care less if you do it or not. So, the fact that marijuana was a Schedule 1 drug that could have gotten you years in jail really made no sense because it just didn't match public opinion in almost any way. Every time there's a movement to legalize recreational marijuana, people get celebratory. And again, it makes sense. Because why is the government saying you cannot do something at all, right? So the days here that recreational marijuana is legal in New Jersey, like in many other places. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but let's take a step back and really think about what's going on here. Maybe I'm just skeptical, but please hear me out on this one. The fact that recreational marijuana is legal now means that there is going to be legal vendors. Obviously, people can now buy and sell marijuana legally. Obviously. But what does this mean? Let's ask ourselves, who can sell? More importantly, who will sell? If you ask me, probably big businessmen. Think about this for a moment. The weed business, back when it was illegal, and in places where it's illegal still, is a business that benefits mostly blacks and Mexicans, specifically those struggling with money from struggling communities who turn to the industry to help remedy that so that they can bring food home. I'm not going to sit here and say that the industry is exclusively black and Mexican, but let's not pretend like it's mostly blacks and Mexicans who rely on this industry to support themselves and their families. This is a major source of income that is now swiped away from them almost completely by who? Rich white politicians. Think about this. Malcolm X, back when he was alive, used to stress the fact that struggling minority communities were stuck in a state of financial struggle because they could not keep their money, right? So Malcolm X recognized that minorities would work for their money, and once they earned it, would go and spend it in a way that put it right back into the pockets of the rich white man who cared nothing about you or even cared to know about you and even cared to know about you or your community. And we see this in a lot of ways. If you want to eat chicken, right? Instead of going to your local chicken spot and you choose KFC or Popeyes, the money that you spent is going not to the people who work there who might look like you. It's not going into your community either. But instead, it's going into the bank account of somebody who's a multimillionaire who does not care about you, does not care to know about you, and probably stands for a lot of things that you're completely against. In contrast, if you spend the money at your local chicken spot, it's going into a locally owned business. That local business owner will probably then reinvest that money in that local business, which then helps your community by keeping your money, even though it's not in your pocket anymore because you spent it on chicken, it at least is reinvested back into your community. You spending your money there helped your community, which ultimately helps you. This is what Malcolm X was saying. And even if this wasn't the case, at least your money went to somebody who resembles you and represents your world and where you come from, who is your people. This is what Malcolm X was saying that minorities need to do in order to not only get themselves out of poverty, but uplift their communities out of poverty. As long as you're making money, it doesn't matter that you're making it if you're putting it right back into the pockets of people who are keeping you down. You're basically just robbing your community of the economy that it has. And this is what Malcolm X was against. Back to weed. We basically just took all the business from a lot of struggling people and put it into the hands of businessmen who probably never knew struggle and don't even need the money. They're going to be the ones owning these dispensaries. They're going to be the ones monopolizing the sale of weed and the weed industry. And we're celebrating. We're celebrating. I don't smoke weed, right? But I'm saying weed because you know what I'm saying. We're celebrating because we can now buy and smoke weed legally. But let's take a moment to think about who isn't celebrating. The people who lost a major hustle that was bringing their family food home. We've seen this time and time again throughout history where struggling people find a way to make ends meet. And they're shamed for it. And they're jailed for it. And they're stereotyped for it. And they're beat to the ground for it. And then all of a sudden, it becomes okay when the white man does it. And they still beat you into the ground. And they do it in such a way that it's seen by society as acceptable. That they benefit while you still suffer. They get richer while you stay getting kicked on the floor. If you were arrested for any weed-related charges, that's not going away. Nor is the stigma going away. All the effects that those charges have had in your life and all the effects that the negative stereotyping has had in your life are not going away. Just because recreational marijuana is legal now doesn't mean that people are still not going to look at minority weed smokers and call them dirty, people who lack priorities, and just druggies. That's not going to change. But what is going to change is that we're still going to get all that flack like we've been used to, but now just without the money, because the money's now going to the white man. Basically, the white man benefits financially while we lost all the finances but still retain all the negative social effects. I want you to really think about what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's bad that recreational marijuana is legal now. I am just saying to be very cautious of where your money is going. If you are celebrating, please consider what I am telling you. And if you still feel like celebrating, that's your choice. I just wanted to put this out into the air. Please consider where your money goes, with weed or with anything. Please let me know what you think. Stay safe, and thanks for listening.